Hi. Quite a few friendly faces in the audience. I'm looking at people like looking at people like Brian Chapman and wondering if he really needs advice on how to get stories into newspapers. There's quite a few people here that applies to as well. It's nice representation from Link at the background, in the back there. If you should give me advice on how to get stories into papers. I have trouble keeping you out, don't I? Like most of the businesses represented here today, the newspaper industry has gone through massive changes in recent years. What I want to do today is to explain how we've made those changes work for the Gloucestershire Echo, and how, in many ways, it's increased the opportunities for businesses like yours to be heard in Cheltenham and throughout Gloucestershire. Many of the changes we've made have been a direct response to the way people get their news and the way they want to receive their news. If we go back to the 1980s, it's probably the best place to start, before the launch of the internet. We knew that people would buy local newspapers whatever time they came out, and that tended to be late into the afternoon and into the evening. But now we have to be available as people start their working day, or else they have every reason to get their news elsewhere. That's had an impact not only on the news we report in print, but also on how often we report it. Not too many years ago, papers like the Echo would have several editions that would include the breaking news of the day. As well as the main Cheltenham edition, shortly before my arrival in the Echo in 2008, we also had district editions for Tewkesbury and the Cotswolds. My predecessor took the decision to merge them into one edition, and now a single edition serves our circulation area. It was actually the right decision, and it's partly because we've got to be concentrating so much on being there when people start their day and are picking up the news in the mornings. But in reality, we actually have more editions now than we've ever had, and that's actually thanks to the internet. Through our website, this is gloucestershire.co.uk, we can run breaking news whenever we want. Even in what people think of as the good old days, once, say, midday had passed, that was it. There'd be nothing else, no other way of getting the news out to people. But now, if there's a major incident or a major breaking business story, we can tell people about it straight away, whatever time of the day or night it happens. And the great thing about the internet is that it's got limitless capacity. We can't carry every local sports result, every local planning ruling in the Echo, but online we can, we have the space to do so. So the biggest challenge that we have on papers like the Echo and other regional newspapers across the country is that we have to complement the website. We've still got to produce a newspaper that's informative, relevant and entertaining, whether readers have read the breaking news online or not. And we've changed, as I've said, quite a bit over the years. The Echo used to look like this. Brian's nodding. Remember that copy? Let's have a guess. What year are we talking about? Those at the front, don't cheat.
70s?
70s? Decades. Give us decades.
68?
68? Any advance or any further back than 68?
Probably still the 2000s.
60s, late 60s, 70s, yeah. That's what people tend to think. Saturday, April 27th, 1985. That's as recent as 1985. And the reason I show that one is that 2 days later, the Echo became really modern. And look like this. So that was Monday, April 29th, 1985, when we took the radical decision to go tabloid. I hadn't even started working on the Evening Post then. And it just shows you, I think, not only how quickly things change, but how quickly people get used to change, because these papers obviously look a lot older than they actually are. And I think people probably expected that in the 80s, if you were asked the question, would papers have had colour pictures as the norm in the 80s, they certainly would have done, but in fact, no, it was well into the 90s and beyond before newspapers were even carrying colour pictures. That was a massive step forward. And even when colour production became the norm on regional newspapers, it would be very limited. We'd be able to carry possibly a front page colour picture, a back page colour picture, and a couple of point pages inside because of the massive cost of the colour plates. That changed over the years, and we got to the point where I didn't have to spend every conference as a news editor in Bristol saying, can this go on a colour page please, to the point where probably 10-15 years ago it became cost effective to use colour throughout, and we obviously had to use colour throughout because we started to look very dated alongside other publications. Today the Echo is selling an average of almost 16,000 copies each day, with a readership of more than 55,000. In the Cheltenham area, that means we continue to reach 53%. We had our first Apprentice Awards this year, which the Princess Royal attended, and I'm delighted to say that seems to have been welcomed with open arms by the business community. Lots of companies wanting to be associated with it through sponsorship of the categories. And I think when people question the value of local newspapers in 2012, these are the areas where we still stand out. Not only do we give communities a voice, but we campaign and fight for issues that they believe in. And that's one of the most important things to me as an editor. But obviously what you also need to know today is how you can get your voice heard and how you can do it in such a way that it'll be of interest to us and our readers. You may often feel that you've done wonderful things both with your business and in your community and wonder why the Echo hasn't been in touch. You've probably got this vision of almost in every street an Echo reporter wandering around looking for stories. Possibly every night 10 or 12 Echo reporters covering important business meetings. That's not the reality these days, I'm afraid. We've got 6 reporters based in Cheltenham itself. You have another in the Tewkesbury, another in the Cotswolds. They all work really hard, they all do a fantastic job. But they can't be everywhere. They can't see everything, they can't hear everything, they can't be having conversations with as many people as they perhaps should be. I'm a great believer in them getting out to the community. I always tell reporters when they start off at the Echo that one of the most important things they do is to really get to know the patch. They've all got their own patches to cover. We've got a reporter for Leckhampton and Charlotte Kings, for example, and they need to get out there and know their community, both through going to parish council meetings, both through getting themselves known in the local pub, and also getting to know people like yourselves. But they can't do it all themselves. So I think that the first message I would have is, if you've done something you're proud of, if you're about to do something you're involved with, tell us. Pick up the phone. I'm going to leave a pile of my business cards at the front today. Pick up the phone, drop us an email, and we are interested in hearing what you've got to say. And either a reporter, or if it's a particularly business story, Bev Hawes, our business editor, will be interested in hearing from you. We'll get back from you. We may say, no, actually that isn't of any interest at all. But most of the time, I think there'll be a place somewhere for the stories you've got to tell. It's not obviously just in the news pages that we're telling stories of business success. We've just redesigned our Tuesday business supplement. A couple of familiar faces there on the front page. Launched as The Business again last week. There's several copies there. That's this week's. And this is a publication that sits across the Echo and Citizen, so it's got a big reach. Those figures I talked about earlier for the number of people, you can double them and more because it appears in the Citizen as well. But it's full of stories about local businesses, and it's a really important part of the paper on Tuesday. We've also launched a new monthly magazine, which you may not have seen, called Gender. And the idea of this is to attract a different market. It's aimed at the top of the business sector. We send 1,000 copies of this out each month to business leaders, and it's been really well received. And you can certainly get on the mailing list for that if you're interested. It's also a way of attracting particular advertisers that want to be seen and getting their messages across to the top of the business world in Gloucestershire. We're also obviously looking at other areas. I think many of you will have been aware of our fashion and beauty week last year, which was the first one for us, and it's enabled us to produce one-off niche publications like this. This was our fashion production, which we did, and we're running Fab again in the spring, probably in April, and it brings a new feel to both the sort of publications we produce and the sort of areas we're working in. It's a far cry from those editions of the paper I showed you in 1985, but we need to be aware of businesses' involvement online as well. Southwest Business was a website that was very popular. It was across the whole of the Southwest, and again, we've relaunched that in recent times. And if you could go on to www.southwestbusiness.co.uk, you'll find a link to a digital newsletter, which means that every morning, Monday to Friday, you have the latest business headlines emailed to your computer or mobile. Please have a look at that. It's proved very popular. We've already got, I think, 5,000 people receiving that newsletter online every day. It'll keep you in touch with all Gloucestershire's breaking business news. We're also particularly proud of the Echo and Citizen Business Awards. It's the biggest event of its kind run by a regional newspaper anywhere in the country. Happening next Thursday at the Centaur. We've got 700 guests this year. In fact, it's a fantastic event. It's our 15th year. We've called it the Diamond Jubilee Business Awards this year. We're going to celebrate all the winners over the 15 years that we've been going. And there are some tickets left if anybody here wasn't aware of it and is interested in going along. But it is a fantastic black tie evening. We also publish annual supplements on the top 100 businesses in Gloucestershire, which has become a barometer of business success in the county, and the 100 most influential business people in Gloucestershire. There's lots of different ways, as I've said, of getting your messages across, and some of you may work with PR companies to promote what you do, and that's absolutely fine. And sometimes it can work really well because they can often spot a story in something you're doing, something you're about to work on that you wouldn't recognise as newsworthy. So certainly think about talking to PR companies if you don't already. There's another really good way of being sure that your name appears regularly, and that is by being ready to respond to the news agenda. People will always say we never get a chance to comment on certain things, but if our reporters get to know you and get to know that when they need a quote on a particular subject, you not only want to talk, but you'll be ready to do so very quickly. That could make all the difference in the world. If you say, oh yes, that's very interesting, it's really appropriate to my business, we'd probably run you because your business is appropriate to that subject. And you'll say, I'll just go and talk to such and such, our business director on this, or I'll have a committee meeting and get back to you next week. No good, the opportunity's gone. It's actually no good to say, I'll get back to you tomorrow, because the story will be being written for the next day's Echo. Talk to us, come back to us in half an hour or an hour with a response. Say it's the impact of a particular tax change that's just been announced. We can ring countless people in the county and have those sort of problems with people saying, just being not ready to respond. Give us a quick response, we'll come back to you. You'll all have seen Mike Warburton appearing in not only the Echo and the Citizen, but also in the Telegraph, on TV all the time. Mike Warburton of Grant Thornton. He's not in the room, so I can say this quite happily. Mike hasn't got many secrets. He doesn't know things that nobody else knows. But what Mike is absolutely brilliant at is being available, being ready, being prepared to have the courage in a way to give the media very quick, well thought out responses. He might ask for 10 minutes, but he doesn't often ask for longer than that. And that's why Grant Thornton's name is out there more than many of the companies in this room, because they've got somebody who's always prepared and ready to deal with the media and give us the responses we need. There's another way, of course. Spend a bit of money. If you want to ensure you get a regular message out there, you can sponsor columns in our publications. The business supplements I've already shown you include columns like this. That's a regular one from a firm of solicitors. And if you talk to people in our advertising department, you have the chance to essentially buy the space for half the price that an advert would cost you. We want to do that because your expertise in that area will be of interest to our readers, and you get the space, as I said, for less than half of what it costs for an advert. Advertising can also have an enormous impact as well, of course, and that's another way of working with us. I'm not going to talk about too much detail about that, it's somebody else there, really. And also sponsorship of categories. I've mentioned already the Apprenticeship Awards. We had no problem at all in getting sponsors for the Apprenticeship Awards because people realised that it was a really good thing to be directly involved with. We do numerous award ceremonies, and if you're interested, contact me again and I'll put you in touch with someone who can explain the various opportunities. Hopefully with this package of magazines and newspapers complementing the websites, we remain the best way for for Cheltenham businesses to get their voices heard. And hopefully you'll have a better idea how to achieve that now. But what I've obviously been asked to leave time for today is questions, because the true answers often come out during Q&As. So hopefully I've given you an overall view of how you may not have thought about working with us. The final message again is just be available and make sure we know how to contact you. But aside from that, there's a few lessons for you there, hopefully. Thank you very much.
I work in the charitable sector, and so we're obviously very interested in getting our presence in newspapers. I was just wondering if you could say a few words about press releases and some advice about
there is a danger when people send press releases for the first time that they want to tell their entire life story. I think if you think sort of pre-email and think of one side of A4, if you can't fit the information in that sort of space, then you're probably giving us more than we need. As long as you're able to give us advance notice of an event happening, explain it in that sort of space, give us daytime and evening contact phone numbers, and what you think the news hook is at the top of the press release rather than buried at the bottom. We'll read it and we'll come back to you. If you get those things right, there's a good chance there's something up here. I think there's, as far as charity is concerned, there's almost two bites of the cherry if you're having an event. So we're often very keen to do picture stories promoting events in advance. So if you can give us a couple of weeks' notice of something's happening on say a Saturday, we're often keen to take a picture in advance. And if staffing permits come along and cover something on the day as well.
I'm Richard Jeffers by a company called Achieving Difference. I sit on one of the net bodies, and a recent discussion was saying people from sort of the Tewkesbury, the Cirencesters, the sort of Strouds and the sort of to the south were saying we don't see, we don't actually see any of the Gloucester groups, Citizen or Echo, actually on sale. I know they've taken away the local ones, but we don't see them, and they felt there was a distribution problem into those areas. What's the reality?
I think if I sort of start by explaining the way that the company works across the county, obviously the Echo and the Citizen are two daily titles, and if you think of the M5, this is the way I explain it normally. Think of the M5 in the middle. If you look at the right hand side of the M5 with Cheltenham, Tewkesbury, and the Cotswolds, that's the Echo's main patch, and the other side, Gloucester, Stroud and the Five Valleys, over to the Forest of Dean, is the Citizen. I think as far as the places you've mentioned are concerned, I think it doesn't really hold true for Tewkesbury. Tewkesbury is still one of our main selling areas. We have a Tewkesbury page every day. We have really good readership figures in Tewkesbury and Northway and Ashchurch. We still sell a lot of papers there. The Cotswolds is a difficult area because it's a very large area with lots of small pockets of population. We're actually looking very closely at Cirencester because we believe there's a real opportunity there. It's a town that's growing fast. It's got a really fantastic community, and also the opposition isn't spending much time in Cirencester anymore. There's people nodding in the background. So we're aware of some areas we could do a lot better. I think if I was to choose one area where I'd like the Echo to go in and make a real difference, it would be Cirencester.
I had a second question, sort of related, but this was to do with sort of the virtual. Most papers seem to be sort of struggling to find a model, and are you likely to be having to go into some sort of paywall or subscription for online, or will you be able to get sufficient revenues from advertising and hard copy sales to support the online presence?
We've got absolutely no plans to start charging for online at the moment. I think if we could turn the clock back 20 years, and every newspaper publisher in the country and the world had realised quite the impact the internet is going to have, and we'd all charged from the outset, and people had actually expected that because we're giving them information, then it would have been absolutely fine. It was a massive missed opportunity. The problem now is there's so many different ways of getting information. When you see papers like The Times trying it certain days of the week, people would just go to the Telegraph online and get the same information. It doesn't work. The advantage we have is that we are the best provider of local news for Gloucestershire. So in a way, we're more unique than the national papers I've talked about. But almost because of that, I don't see any need to complicate things with any sort of charges for online. So in answer to your question, yes, we believe we can continue to attract the advertising revenue we need from both print and digital together to support a free online service.
How many visitors does the website get roughly?
I'm not going to answer that question because I get it wrong. It's going like that.
Okay.
And the print circulation is going like that.
Right.
I can get the information if you want to leave me some details, but I'll underestimate it. It's progressing really well. Yeah.
Hi Kevin.
Hello.
The property paper is now available every day.
Yep.
It's not on a Thursday, it's a pound, which is
Yeah.
good. It's a lot bigger, which is great. And the articles are interesting. Will the same happen with the business section, do you think?
No immediate matter. It's a good question. For those of you that aren't aware, property is always a sort of inside the Echo and the Citizen, two different sections on a Thursday. And what we've just started doing is changing it slightly and putting it on sale for the whole week as well. And part of the thinking behind that was to attract areas where people actually want to look at buying houses in our area but don't actually live here. For example, people out in the North Cotswolds that don't see the Echo. If the property settlement's out there, they'll buy it because they want to look at the property in other parts of Gloucestershire. The other reason we did it is a simple way, because if people miss the Echo on the Thursday, they've got to wait for the following week to see the supplement again. We've also taken the quality of the paper up to improve the product, so it's a better standalone product, and it's really encouraging to me that we've got a managing director locally who's prepared at the moment to spend money investing in our products, because that's cost us a lot of money. And the other thing we've done, which is a major investment, hopefully a few of you saw on Saturday, our weekend magazine has now moved to glossy paper, which has produced a lot of positive responses. Several complaints about the fact we've taken the 7-day-a-week TV guide out, which is the one thing we're hearing enough to make us think we might have to look at that again. But the overall product is so much improved, and it's great to see Cotswold Life in the room nodding their heads.
Take one more, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie from Helix PR. You've set up the Made in Gloucestershire campaign, which obviously we're all keen to support.
Yeah.
Is there anything particular about that you're planning? Is there any other supplements or any other aspects of it that we might get involved with?
Made in Gloucestershire is an ongoing campaign that we launched at the Business Awards last year, in fact. And so we never saw it as something that would start on a certain day and finish on another.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right to mention it. One of the great things about Gloucestershire, I think this is one of the great things about Gloucestershire's business community, is they work so closely together and also want to help promote each other. I compare it to Bristol, and I think Gloucestershire knocks spots off Bristol.
I worked in Bristol,
Yeah.
and it's exactly
The way
it's
that
not cohesive.
absolutely. I've never really understood. Looking back at it now, I didn't really realise how unconnected Bristol was. But Gloucestershire, for all its perceived Cheltenham-Gloucester rivalry, is certainly on the business side a community that works really well together. And the idea of Made in Gloucestershire was to promote the products that are made here and sell that message outside the county. So yes, we're going to continue with that brand. And if any of you have got examples, that's a really good question, because if any of you are sitting there thinking, how can I get my company into the business paper? If you've got a product that is made here and made here alone, then straight away that's a story we're going to be interested in. You've got something that's genuinely made in Gloucestershire.